You may have seen a resurgence of a meme floating around lately about how spectacular of a year 2007 was for gaming. There was the release of BioShock, Halo 3, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, B-movie game, countless others, and the beginning of a legendary series, Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed 1 was potentially the biggest leap in gaming innovation I experienced growing up. Insane graphics, massive crowds, huge cities I could parkour throughout. Coming right off the release of Casino Royale, this was hype as f***. There was an extremely fresh take on third-person combat, and it introduced us to the story of Desmond Miles.
That's a little creepy, Doc.
And Altair Ibn Altair. Assassin's Creed 2 capitalized on everything I just mentioned, a whole new time period, even better combat innovations like 2 hidden blades, and introducing us to one of the most iconic protagonists in gaming, Ezio Auditore da Firenze. Requiescat in pace. Assassin's Creed 2 was such a success that they made another game based around Ezio, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. And that was so good they made another Ezio game, Assassin's Creed Revelations. And at this time I think a lot of us were like, alright, we've proven that Ezio's a badass, can we move along with the time periods maybe, Ubisoft? And Ubisoft was still like, and when he was 53 years old, he started developing hemorrhoids, and this really affected his free. But another thing about Ezio is that when he assassinated every single one of them, he also banged her. Well, we get it, man, we get it. Can we have 3 now? Fine, I'll give you tree. Tree? What are you, a pirate? Not yet. But yes, trees. In Assassin's Creed 3. Bam, Assassin's Creed 3, new setting, the American Revolution, Connor Kenway, kinda forgettable. But I personally really like this Assassin's Creed, even though it was more of the same. Then, out of nowhere, like a rogue wave, the best pirate game ever made comes out, Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I don't even really know why the f this was still an Assassin's Creed game, but hey, the combat fundamentals were pretty much the same, and he has an assassin's blade for some reason, so who cares? At this time, even outside of Assassin's Creed, Ubisoft was having one of the best win streaks in game development history. Far Cry 3 was released in 2012, more on that later. Assassin's Creed Black Flag was released in 2013, along with Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, Rayman Legends, The Smurfs 2, and Splinter Cell Blacklist. But as the saying goes, with great power comes great responsibility. To not fall victim to the power of greed. So, Assassin's Creed Unity is released. I surprisingly did not hate this game, and I say that because a lot of people did. Sure, I thought the story and the writing was pretty weak. I hated how all the French people had British accents.
You boy, so what are you doing there?
But the parkour felt fantastic, the graphics, although buggy, still looked great, and they introduced one of my favorite, now neglected, aspects of Assassin's Creed, free roam co-op. This was so sick. I loved assassinating my way through a castle with a friend and running across rooftops, laughing, pushing each other into the bushes. It was the best time. Why didn't they continue putting this in their games? Could Uplay not handle it? Most likely. And just like a true assassin, with a bit of sleight of hand, some distractions, and some downplay of what it truly was, Ubisoft began to drip a bit of poison into their games. Poison known as microtransactions, starting with Assassin's Creed Unity with the implementation of Helix credits, marking the beginning of the end. Wait, why are those the same price? Okay, with Unity I'm being a little dramatic. Helix credits didn't affect much in-game. All of these items you could get with in-game currency. But they did add exclusive, quote, shortcut items that you could acquire by just climbing a tower. But this is the beginning of microtransactions, and it gets a lot worse over time. There's a lot of things that make me sick of Ubisoft. Hey, you said the title. And I'll do my best to cover what I can, but these guys have made a lot of games. Like a ton. And I'm sure a lot of you have enjoyed these games, which is great, because I have too. But I do believe that over the past 10 years, the fundamentals that made Ubisoft such a great titan of gaming have eroded over time. Fundamentals like the ability to innovate. I'd like to start with the beloved series, Far Cry. Far Cry 6 is a great example of this, because we're on the 6th game of Far Cry, but let's be honest, we're still playing Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3 was my first Far Cry experience, and it was crazy. A tropical open-world first-person shooter full of blood-pumping action, featuring the coming-of-age tale of Jason, this quiet, unconfident, dweeb kid.
Lame!
He couldn't hurt a fly, but due to horrific circumstances, he turns into a vengeful, weaponized guerrilla warfare badass after the ultra-violent villain Voss kills your brother right in front of you. You literally carve out a path of blood on your way to Voss, only to realize you've become exactly what your greatest enemy is.
Pull the trigger!
You also have sex with this lady, and she kills you at the end of it, which is kind of the way I want to go out. Hardcore, not like a f***ing pussy. I played a ridiculous amount of Far Cry 3, and then played even more when the DLC Blood Dragon came out, adding a massive spin to almost every element of the game except for the strong core gameplay loop. That was DLC. Do you remember that word? Downloadable content, where a finished game at launch adds even more content like a year later that's almost as big as the original game, that's not just like one mission or a weapons pack, and it's also reasonably priced. You do? Well, that's in the past. All this to say, when Far Cry 4 came out, I began to play it, and the gunplay, clearing outposts, traversal, melee executions, the stealth system, it all just felt kind of the same, and I was burnt out from Far Cry. Then Far Cry Primal is announced, and I'm like, whoa. That is definitely something that's different. But no, they even somehow made Far Cry Primal, a game about prehistoric cavemen fighting mammoths, into Far Cry 3 again. How do you even do that? Well, you give your cavemen a shitload of menus to go through, the same outpost system to conquer, give them a radar, give them basically thermal vision technology in his eyeballs, and have every movement system, shooting system, and UI element used in Far Cry 3 baked into the game. That's how you make Far Cry 3 again. But then Far Cry 5 is announced. Bringing Far Cry to America felt like a game I could not pass up. I could have passed it up. Same combat as Far Cry 3, guns felt the exact same. Playing with friends just didn't even help for me. Like, the combat was just too simple and easy. The AI is still dumb as rocks, even when you throw rocks at them.
Throw those rocks and get me numbers up.
And I still don't even remember one character outside of the main villain. Sometimes I don't even remember the main character's name. I don't in Far Cry 5. And don't forget follow missions,
I don't got a lot of time to waste.
where you follow somebody at a snail's pace while they talk about the most disgusting, horrifying things this person you're hunting has done.
See, they had to drink their own piss. Like the kids didn't want to do.
And then you go and kill that guy in the most unsatisfying way. Effective storytelling. And then 6 comes out, and they got the Los Pollos chicken guy. And what's the mass consensus?
Ubisoft has done nothing to refine a now ancient formula.
And the same formula as before.
This is very much more Far Cry.
I don't want to hear that anymore. I don't want to hear it's more of the same. Fuck that. Still clearing out outposts. Combat still feels the exact same. AI is still dumb as f***ing rocks. It's been 10 years since Far Cry 3 came out. F***ing innovate. So why hasn't this improved? Maybe it's because they're on a 2-year release schedule before they even start production on the game or even know what the f*** it is. That's barely enough time to make a full game, let alone creatively reinventing the entire franchise. I'm not even saying that Far Cry 6 games are bad nowadays. If you're new to the game, you'll probably have a lot of fun. I'm saying playing Far Cry 3 7 times now is getting pretty fucking stale. What I think Far Cry 3 did really well, and what's kind of missing now in Far Cry games, is it didn't write you into the shoes of some superstar rebel that you watch during cutscenes. It wrote you into your own shoes, as Jason, somebody who's never killed anybody in their life, and is thrown into a terrifying situation where he has to get his shit together before he dies so he can survive, and then later thrive. It was a rare situation in gaming where, as I played the game, I really did feel like I was developing in tandem with the character I was playing as. Now it feels much more run-of-the-mill where you're playing as some rebel with a cause, a pretty generic-ass cause, and just doing insignificant fetch quest missions for random people until you finally face the one interesting overlord antagonist.
Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is? Doing the exact same fucking thing over and over again, expecting shit to change. That is crazy.
And the negatives I've said about Far Cry can be almost applied to any Ubisoft title right now. These games get made that are supposed to be sequels, but they're pretty much the exact same game as the first one, with a new coat of paint, maybe it's a new environment, but the gameplay core and objectives are still almost the exact same, with maybe some minor improvements or sometimes more problems than the first game. Now here's the thing, I'm not saying that every single one of these games, especially if it's a sequel, needs to be some massive redesign of the entire gameplay core, like the way Santa Monica did with God of War. Some Ubisoft titles still need that change, and I think Far Cry is one of them. But let's think, why does God of War work when a sequel is coming up for God of War, and it's probably going to be the majority of the same as God of War 1, but it's going to work. I almost guarantee it, because Santa Monica Studios is going to innovate on top of this. They're gonna have new abilities, they're gonna have new aspects of the ridiculously fun combat system. They're gonna have a new game world environment, new interesting and challenging enemies, and most importantly, it's gonna bring us a new, rich story in the next chapter of the God of War series. See, what Ubisoft does is it settles for mediocre, keeps the same mechanics of a previous game that kind of worked, and then adds a few zany ideas on top of that. Like Far Cry 4, I can ride an elephant now. Whoa, that really changes the game. Far Cry 6, we have chorizo. Oh, it's a little dog with a cart. Okay, that's actually kind of adorable. And he's got a tool belt. But those little differences just evaporate when you realize that you're still playing the same gameplay core you've been playing for the last 3+ titles, and there's not a good story to sink your teeth into. It's like, dude, I don't even watch 30 minutes of a bad movie. What makes you think I'm gonna stick around for this 40+ hour game that I've been playing for the past 10 years? I've had enough. So I was trying to ask myself this, like, why do they stop innovating? And I think you have hundreds of employees being taught the same game making tools, using the same workflows, being taught the same processes. And these teams are full of hundreds of creators and design directors. Every idea needs some sort of approval. And it's a really hard task to get all those people to agree on game-changing ideas. So the core remains the same and only a few minor ideas get through. So they refuse to innovate the game. They innovate in different ways, like in microtransactions. They'll innovate like crazy, making whole new softwares and technologies dedicated to making them more money. You got Ubisoft Plus, you got Uplay, Ubisoft, which is just Ubisoft Connect, by the way. Typical corporate move. Hey, we have this dog shit app. How about we just rebrand it and nobody will notice it's the same dog shit app? Guess what? We all noticed. It's still terrible. You got Ubisoft Forward, you got Ubisoft Movies, you got Ubisoft Quartz. What's Ubisoft Quartz, you ask? Well, that's Ubisoft's new NFTs. How do you think the community reacted to that?
Yeah, let's have a good Christmas. What about me? Oh, you go fuck yourself in your fat fucking ass.
Exactly. A perfect result of the lack of innovation is the new game Rainbow Six Extraction. Now, I really like Rainbow Six Siege, but I'm not like a hardcore player by any means. I don't get that sweaty. But I do watch basically homeless videos where he messes with hardcore players.
I got another kill. We are one!
And Siege made me kind of nervous when it first launched because it was a victim to Ubisoft's classic downgrade prank. And if you want to see more of that, go watch Crowbcat's video on this. It's hilarious. Also, while we're on the subject of Ubisoft trailers, please, Ubisoft, stop using gamer actors. It is the most unrealistic, slightly enjoyable because it's so cringe dialogue I've ever heard in any trailers ever.
Whoa, 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 it's another group of players. Brace for PvP.
Did he just say brace for PvP? No human has ever said that. This guy is an alien. Anyway, although Siege wasn't as good looking of a game as it was supposed to be, it was still a super fun game to play and really intense. That's why it's lasted over 6 years. Well, and Ubisoft wanted to charge us more and more infinitely, pretty much. Every now and then Siege will put on these events that kind of change up the gameplay dynamics as a whole, and sometimes these game modes actually work really well. And one of them did so well that they decided to make a game based around it, and that is Rainbow Six Extraction. And guess how they innovated on that game? Or should I ask, guess how they did not innovate any further than they had to on that game mode and made an entire full-priced game from it? I don't even know how you answer that question. It sucked. And I think Ralph from SkillUp really summarized it pretty well.
It just feels like a really phoned-in Siege asset flip.
Another strange part of Ubisoft is the fact that they seem to forget some of the games that made them so great. Like, under the Tom Clancy umbrella, two big standouts for me is where the hell is Splinter Cell nowadays? And then my personal favorite game, maybe even in general growing up, especially for a first-person shooter, was Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and 2. The first-person to third-person cover system was genius. The atmosphere of a game, taking a helicopter into a hostile zone, ziplining down, ready to take on a whole terrorist force occupying an American city. Oh, hell no. And the split-screen multiplayer was endlessly fun. The amount of times I played Terrorist on Villa on realism is absurd. I remember all the equipment and paint jobs I spent hours in that game trying to get. Remember those times when you worked for the gear that you get into a video game? You don't just buy it with a credit card? Ah, the past. I even imported my own face into the game to get my character to look more like me. Did it work? No, it was horrifying. But at least they tried. And then Splinter Cell was the staple of the stealth shooter game genre, a genre that I possibly just made up. I got really into the last Splinter Cell game, Splinter Cell Blacklist, and played it online with my friends all the time. And then one day the games just stopped being made. According to the CEO in a 2020 interview, they're still going to make more Splinter Cell games, but they're just trying to figure out what to do with it right now. But it's also been like 10 years. These games have had plenty of times to come back in a powerful way. Nowadays, what we get from the Tom Clancy team is an endless amount of unbalanced operators they put into Siege, along with unrealistic abilities like the ability to conjure a full-scale hologram. Didn't this game start with like people bashing down doors with like a sledgehammer in 2015? Did I not notice the city in the background was Coruscant? Woo! I wanted to make this last part of the video basically a rant on Assassin's Creed, because the most recent Assassin's Creed game, Valhalla, was marked with almost every single cardinal sin that Ubisoft has done throughout almost all of their games. It was clear around Assassin's Creed Unity that the combat system was getting pretty stale. Counter, kill, perfect parry, kill. And with so many other games adopting that combat system like Batman, Shadow of Mordor, hell, even Mad Max has it, it only contributed to the gameplay loop becoming even more stale faster. So after another yearly release, Syndicate comes out, and the team decides to take a break, analyze the franchise, and head in a different, more fresh direction. Now I was looking forward to this. Egypt sounded like a perfect location for an Assassin's Creed game, and with the extra time they could really do something impressive here. So what did they end up doing? Well... No. Levels, health bars, enemies that are sword sponges, numbers for damage, glowing alerts, obnoxious UI, Zelda-like combat, Goliath-sized enemies for some reason. And you know that whole assassinating thing? Yeah, we don't really do that anymore. It's more of like a 2015 thing. I had a lot of issues going into this game, but somehow with sticking to it and giving it a genuine shot, it was actually better than I thought. However, and I'm sure you've heard a similar line to this, I liked the game, but I do not think it should have been an Assassin's Creed game. Because it doesn't fit the description. It's an action RPG. Rarely was I assassinating anybody, using stealth, I never worked with any other assassins, and I barely even parkoured.
Parkour! Get off! Get off! Okay.
And then Odyssey comes out. And within one new game, they've already slipped back into the pits of what they were doing before with every Ubisoft title. New game every year, new coat of paint, same combat, same map that's just too big, mediocre writing, and the menus even look the same. But something I noticed right away in this game, and this might be the biggest point of hatred I have towards the Assassin's Creed games right now, is, am I a fucking superhero? I have super strength, I can wield these weapons twice my size, and I also now can conjure the power of the elements? Like, is this Skyrim? Is this World of Warcraft? And there's even more 10-foot, fucking hell. I'm pissed off. And there's even more 10-foot tall enemies, and now there's even mythical monsters like the Minotaur and the Medusa. Like, I appreciate the imagination, but it's not the right fit for the game. That's like taking Jason Bourne and putting him into the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, interesting idea, should not do it. Also, there's actually a reason why I stopped playing Odyssey. I stopped playing it because of the over-compressed 240p Prince of Persia Sands of Time shoddy ass sound design. I noticed it in Origins too, but for some reason in Odyssey, I was like painfully aware of it. And by the way, it might be from Prince of Persia because they got the rights to that game. Like, at this point, I just wasn't even sure if I could be excited for an Assassin's Creed game ever again. But then a whisper from the shadows. Valhalla. Like a Viking game? Viking culture? My Norwegian heritage? Yes. That's kind of a huge part of me. That's what she said. Don't you dare. Seriously, hearing about a Viking Assassin's Creed game actually seduced me, because that's like my ancestry. Most of that up until like the 1900s was in Rogaland, Norway. So I was like, Ubisoft, if you are attempting a Viking Assassin's Creed game, it can't be superheroes, it can't be half-assed, it can't be a giant empty world. It is. But fuck it, I played it. Combat is the same, but somehow even worse than Odyssey. And by the way, I'm not even saying that Odyssey had bad combat. There's stuff I liked about Origins, and Odyssey has its own fan base. It wasn't for me. I don't think it should be an Assassin's Creed game. And when they put it into the Viking game, I was like, you know what? This is the worst thing to happen in my life. See right there, like the sound quality, just don't know about that. You have debatably even more super strength in this game, being able to kick a guy half of a football field away from you, and you can literally punch people's heads off. It's times like these that I just wonder, like, Are the developers just blind to what other games are being made right now? Like, did they not see God of War? Did they not see Ghost of Tsushima? I think you can make a direct comparison from Valhalla to Ghost, and that would show you like exactly what you should do in your timepiece video game and exactly what you should avoid in your timepiece video game. In Ghost, they found this amazing balance to make their combat system stand out from the rest. It was refreshing, it was fairly realistic, it was difficult, and throughout the entire game, you felt like you were getting better and better and better until by the end of it, you were the Ghost of Tsushima. Like, does Ubisoft see that and just like, no lights going off? Hello? You guys also made For Honor. It was an amazing combat system, like, still nothing? No ideas. Yeah, we just thought the combat system in Zelda Ocarina of Time just really nailed it in 1998, and I think that's all we need. You fucking idiot. There's a ton of times in Valhalla where my guy does something that I didn't intend him to do. Like when I'm in combat with two guys right in front of me, I'll use the axe throwing ability and I'll like throw an axe into this guy, throw an axe into this guy, and instead of throwing it, killing the guy in front of me, I throw it behind me at a guy that's 50 yards away, freaking fishing.
On this trip, I returned to my home county in Michigan.
How in the GD world do we not have hair physics in this game? Have they not seen Red Dead Redemption's hair physics? Have they not seen The Witcher 3's hair physics? That's from 2000, a long time ago. My braid on the back just looks like a, not to be explicit, but a hard cut. Like, this braid should be like, and the stun attacks are just so unsatisfying to me. It's like you just run up to a guy and click the right stick in to get a QTE that like 70% of the time the camera's in the wrong position, so it just like clips through a wall and you don't even see it. On the upside, they have brutality in the game. Finally, I'm glad they're finally bringing dismemberment into an Assassin's Creed game. It sounds weird out of context, but I think Assassin's Creed has needed this for a while, where it's like, I cut a guy with a giant axe, not one limb is cut off, not one digit, Ubisoft. But what ruins the brutality is the fact that your guy has super strength and dexterity, so it doesn't feel brutal most of the time. It just feels like you hit a guy so hard that his limbs blew off, like friggin' Fallout 3 bloody mess. Whoa, fuck. Oh, that guy died, but I'm good because I'm, once again, superhuman. You made this beautiful world, which, by the way, I gotta give some praise to friggin' Ubisoft's environments teams, tend to crush it among all of their games. It's like, there's stuff, what the hell was that? The challenge there is to make them alive, which Ubisoft struggles to do. This is a big thing missing in Assassin's Creed games right now too, which is like the game of climbing. Like, you can climb like anything, right? The only thing you can't climb is trees, which is like the most climbable thing in human. Okay, this one you can. I just know I'm gonna be able to climb this fucking tree and I'm gonna eat my words again. Maybe not. See, isn't that funny? Haha! Look, the story isn't great either. There's an incredible amount of repetition in the game for way too long of a time. Like, I remember SkillUp said it was like something like 60 hours for him. When I was looking up the summary of this game, because I didn't beat it, like every single person was just like, thank you, I got sick of this game. I was 50 hours in, still hadn't beaten it. I just wanted to know the ending. Like in the beginning of Valhalla, it's all just a giant cinematic. Your family gets killed in front of you, and there's gotta be some of the weakest acting from this little kid. No screaming, no freaking out. Like, how about we develop a character in this game instead of developing an over-cumbersome skill tree? And now time for the moment that you've probably all been waiting for, and I hope you haven't because it's kind of an annoying subject. Let's talk about microtransactions, baby. Buy the Ultimate Edition for $120, so I get the $40 Season Pass, including 2 small DLCs for free, some small cosmetics. Oh, let's be clear, by the way. This does not include the new Dawn of Ragnarok DLC for $40, so let's go ahead and pre-order that as well. And oh look, there's a premium starter pack for only $30. Let's buy that too. Okay, so before starting the game, I've spent $190. Who the fuck would ever do this? After you buy the base game, Assassin's Creed Valhalla has quite a bit more you can buy with its digital currency Helix credits, including exclusive offers on cosmetics and boosts. Remember when Assassin's Creed took out the crossbow for being unrealistic for its time? Yeah. As far as Helix credits goes, $5 gets you 500 credits, which you can use to buy a stinky bird. So what I did was I went ahead and tallied up most of the items I could get in the store to have all armor, weapons, and permanent boosts like map pack, XP and silver boost, large materials, large silver pack, and my personal favorite microtransaction, the small materials pack. Look at this, it's literally just paper and rocks. I probably missed a few weapons and pets sold separately, so I'm lowballing here, but this is to see how much it'd take to get everything useful and cosmetically in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The total is 67,300 Helios credits, also known as $515 USD, baby. Plus the original $190, so bringing your total to $705. Thanks for shopping at Ubisoft, and go fuck yourself. And there sure are a lot of them in Valhalla, but you can bet your ass that they're in every other Ubisoft game too. I just don't want to spend this whole damn video talking about money, which is kind of hard to do when you're talking about Ubisoft. By the way, looking forward to Assassin's Creed Infinity. Apparently it's got the objective to be a games as a service game. I'm sure that's not going to be a totally hot piece of garbage free-to-play cash grab. Is it, Ubisoft? I am clearly targeting Ubisoft in this video. I mean, it's the title of the video. But countless other big studios are also succumbing to this. Other than friggin' indie companies doing the Lord's work out there, we only have a handful of AAA companies to still look up to, like Naughty Dog, Insomniac Games, Santa Monica Studios, probably another PlayStation exclusive developer, and it just bums me out. A big draw of video games is time away from the bullshit of the world. And now, time and time again, microtransactions, loot boxes, ridiculous cosmetics, advertisements are now being aggressively shoved down our throats in our video games. Why can't a studio like Naughty Dog continue to make some of the best, most innovative games with no yearly release calendar and little to no microtransactions? I don't think they're getting underpaid because some of the best game designers in the world work there. Like, is there some amazing publisher deal they have with Sony that's keeping them afloat without having to suck the blood and money out of every customer that plays their games? There's a good chance that there is. But there's also a really good chance that Ubisoft is just trying to grab the bag. You know, I was trying to think the whole greed issue with Ubisoft from like multiple perspectives, because like I don't want to just be like the gamer who's like,
you're just trying to take my money.
And to a degree, that's exactly what I am. But I'm also not blind to the fact that like it's kind of a tough decision for Ubisoft to make with all these microtransactions being added in. Hear me out. Ubisoft has been successful for a long time, making over $1 billion annually since 2013. But now in 2021, that revenue has doubled to $2 billion a year. And half of that income is from player reoccurring investment. All right, Ubisoft, just call it like it is. It's microtransactions. $1 billion is a lot of money to walk away from, especially for a company. And by the time microtransactions made the money it did, the Pandora's box had already been opened to a point it would never be closed again. But they were also one of the first companies to enter the new digital age, along with companies like EA, to adopt the microtransactional method, and it benefited them so greatly due to the stupidity of gamers buying near pointless cosmetic items, like me. And their company has now grown so immensely, it's like they couldn't even drop the microtransactions if they wanted to without cutting like half of their team loose. The thing is, like, I'm kind of weirdly for gaming companies getting their bag. The more money they get, the more they can spend money on getting a bigger project done. But it's a fine line before things start getting corrupt. And the reason why I'm going really hard on Ubisoft is because Ubisoft doesn't seem to have any sort of shame towards trying every single way to make more money off of their customers. I mean, even including NFTs now, like, come on. If you think they've gone too far, there's your fucking answer. I'm not an investigative journalist, I'm not in the gaming industry, I'm just a YouTuber, and I'm a guy that really used to like Ubisoft games. On the rare chance that Ubisoft watches this video, they might totally write me off and laugh their way all the way to the bank, which they're more than welcome to do. But they shouldn't forget, the longer that this goes on, the more they'll not be remembered for revolutionizing the gaming industry, but helping to destroy it.